Woo! Well, it's been a little bit. I think that's quite the understatement. Yeah, this is the longest I've gone without uploading for a while. Uh, just a lot of stuff's been going on. School's been getting me in the butt. I've seen Joker 7 times now, and I haven't really been in a Dead by Daylight Injustice mood as of late. I've been slowing down. I've been kind of writing my book, and I've just been kind of getting back into storytelling, so I've been kind of focusing on that aspect of my fucking life as of late. But, so one thing I figured I could do to kind of get back into the YouTube is kind of combine my current passions with the current hobbies, if you will, with the whole YouTube thing. So, how I decided to do that was, I know I'm going to be reviewing Joker soon, and because I promised I'd do that. But I have never actually reviewed a fucking movie before, so I figured I would get some practice on that and kind of like go through movies. Like, movies aren't my main art form, I guess. Novels are what I know best, but like there's a lot of interweaving between storytelling and like the actual business aspect. There's a lot of stuff that weaves together between the two that you can easily tape and intertwine, I guess. And since storytelling is a passion and movies are a form of storytelling, I figured I could just kind of get the ball rolling with some reviews. I don't know. This is a big work in progress. No script. I have an outline, a very small one, but so I figured if I'm gonna review movies, I should actually, like, if I'm gonna review Joker, especially, movie I'm very passionate about, might as well do something I know, right? So I decided to start with one of my favorite movies, Halloween from 1978. Halloween 1978 is a movie I first watched when I was 8 years old. I really felt like one of the big boy grown-ups when I watched it for the first time, dude. I like Halloween 1978. From a perspective of, it's not very gory. So like, I don't want to say like it's something like every child should see or anything like that. But it's a movie. It's fucking over 40 years old. There's some like special effects are quite dated. There's no gore for the most part. Like, it's a movie you can easily show somebody who is getting into horror at a younger age now. Like, you don't have to wait till they're 18 years old to show them this movie, I don't think. Especially with kids nowadays, dude. Jesus Christ. They're more sexually aware than they've ever been in their lives. I don't think the sex scene is gonna throw anybody off. Well, kids today, dude. So I first watched it when I was 8 years old, and like I'm also a special case. So like I was somebody that could handle this material from a younger age. So there was nothing. It turned out fine, I think. So So Halloween 1978. First watched when I was 8 years old, dude, and I've loved it ever since. Halloween 1978 was made on a $325,000 budget. That is insanely cheap, even for the time. I know you gotta adjust for inflation and all that, but even for the time, this is an insanely cheap movie we're talking about here. $325,000. Its gross, again, this is 1978, was $70 million worldwide on a $325,000 budget. Even by today's standards, that is insanely profitable. This was an insane movie for its time, and this budget to profit ratio is something you don't even see nowadays. Like, it's crazy how much this made in relation to its profit. So even for 1978, these box office numbers in relation to its budget are quite ridiculous. So this is a major success just by that standard. But let's go through the movie. The first thing that everyone likes to talk about is the actual opening scene for this movie, and we'll get there. I have some things I want to say about it. But the thing I want to focus on is the jack-o'-lantern sequence at the beginning, where it just plays the song and this has that jack-o'-lantern there. The credits roll. that opening sequence was enough to give me chills when I was a little kid, and I think a lot of that has to do with just the score itself. That score, well, it's the Michael Myers theme, the best horror score of all time. Like, there's no way anybody can deny that. I don't think it's so recognizable, and just like even when you're a kid, you hear that and you like. You know Michael Myers is coming, even if you've never seen the movie. But like even if you know the character's name, you know the score, you just hear that, you know he's coming. It has a way of setting the mood, even before you get into the opening scene. So you get to that opening scene, and it's already like the mood is set, and then you get to the opening sequence, and you walk over, and you see. Judith Myers and her boyfriend, just screwing around on the couch, and like you don't know what's going on. You don't know who's looking in for the first time you've ever seen this. Like just ignoring all of that, all everything. Of course, we all know who it is nowadays, but like ignoring that. Like imagine you're in 1978. You don't know who the fuck this is walking around the house. They walk in. It's an adult's hand, so like like people who say it was a kid. That's bullshit. It was Deborah Hill's hand. Like they go up and pick the knife up, and then they the way he sneaks around, and the boyfriend leaves. He goes up and then stabs Judith, and of course she says Michael, so you know it's Michael. But at this point in 1970, you don't know who Michael is. So she's stabbing her, and then you walk out, and it's the reveal that it's a 6-year-old boy, and like that's not enough, and that's so important. Because that's how openings work. Like the importance of an opening scene is to get people invested. Because if you don't have a strong opening, you can't keep people invested to keep on reading or keep watching the movie. So for this opening scene does wonders to draw somebody in that doesn't know what's going on. Like a 6-year-old boy is the one who did this, and. Like especially like that must have had people in 1978 shitting their pants, and like that's another thing that I would like to say going forward. I think a lot if you're gonna look at Halloween 1978, you have to really frame it for its time. Not to say that it doesn't hold up, because it does, but we'll get to some of those sequences. But you really have to judge it for its time period. So you get to that opening scene, and I'd like to talk a little more about that opening scene later, because when we get to actual Michael Myers himself. But it's like just the opening jack-o'-lantern sequence and then the opening sequence. You have created this huge aura of mystique and intrigue within the first 3-4 minutes of the movie, just because of just the theme song and then the opening sequence. And so like people are hooked now. And then so we'll go through now. I'm not going to go scene by scene. That's something I thought I was going to do, but yeah, that nobody wants to hear that. So you get to just the characters in this movie. The standout of this movie, there's two major standouts. We all know who they are. Donald Pleasence is Loomis. I mean, what more does anybody need to say about Donald Pleasence as Loomis? Like it's an icon, and like that's like the main characters of this movie: Michael Myers, Laurie Strode, and Dr. Loomis. They're all icons for a reason. Like Loomis, and just the way that Donald Pleasence portrays him, there's nothing more you can really say about it. It's an iconic performance, and like he says all these lines: "The devil's eyes, death has come to your little town, sheriff." Like there's a reason we all look forward to the Loomis lines, and we all have like memorized these Loomis lines. Like we all know them because they're incredibly well written and they're iconic parts of the movie, and that has a lot to do with the way Donald Pleasence plays the character. And Donald Pleasence is there, like the character of Loomis. This is what characters like Michael Myers, and we'll get more of this. They're hard to characterize. They're like Loomis is there to add characterization to Michael Myers in ways that he cannot. And we'll go over that. So that's like a big role that Loomis has in this movie. Next, we'll just go over Laurie Strode. Laurie Strode is the perfect example. Like I like to talk about Laurie Strode in reference to a lot of today's female characters. Like, people like to say that you didn't like The Last Jedi, you're sexist. You didn't like Terminator Woke Fate, you're sexist. You like Joker, you're sexist. You know, like, that's something, you're sexist, you're racist, all that shit that people like to say about, and like you're sexist. You don't like strong female characters, you don't like Rey, you're a misogynist. You like fuck off. And Laurie Strode is a perfect example that we can use to counter those fucking people. Laurie Strode is a strong female character that is not annoying. She's not, like, annoying. The fact that she's female is not why we like her. Like, she is a strong female character, but, like, we like her because she's noble. And we like her because she's strong. Laurie Strode was strong, and nobody had to tell you about it. That's that's what makes the character interesting. That's what makes her and Ellen Ripley the greatest final horror girls of all time. And Nancy from Nightmare on Elm Street. But like these two characters don't need the world around them. The characters don't need the world around them to tell them that they're strong. Like, you don't need Luke Skywalker going, I've seen this kill with all strength once before. You know what I'm talking about. The other characters don't need to be wow and amazement about what they're doing. We admire Laurie Strode because of the way she carries herself in relation to her friends. Because her friends are ditzy and annoying as fuck. And we admire her the way she cares for the children in this movie. And the way she fights back. That's all you need. You don't need to shove the fact that she's a female down our throats. And that's what makes female characters hated in today's media. And Laurie Strode is completely, and this goes back even to Halloween 2018. Like, people, I'd say people were a little bit more bothered by that, because it was, but like, there was nothing about Halloween 2018 that shoved the fact that they're female in everybody's face. I would disagree with people that say that was a feminist movie. I mean, there's certainly a feminist interpretation of it, but that's not what they were trying to do, in my opinion. Now, I could change with Halloween Kills, you never know, but I don't think Halloween 2018 was inherently, like, they were trying to shove identity politics into anybody's mouth. I don't think that movie was doing that. But in this movie, certainly wasn't doing it. And of course, Laurie Strode is one of those iconic characters, and she's iconic for a reason. This movie is iconic for a reason. And then her friends, Linda and Annie, totally ditzy. And a lot of people like to argue that their acting doesn't hold up very well. You know, that's the time period, dude. It's one of those things where you just kind of have to accept it. It doesn't knock the movie any points for me, personally. I guess I just feel like people are finding something to fault in this movie. I feel like, number one, I felt like the performances were okay for the time, and then two, they don't take me out of the movie, personally, so I think people give them a little too much shit. And then, I thought the child actors did a decent job in this. Tommy and Lindsay weren't insufferable. Sometimes you find child actors and they're just insufferable and completely take you out of the scene. Tommy and Lindsay didn't really do that for me. So overall, a strong cast in this movie. I think. Again, some of the performances can be viewed as kind of dated, but it's not enough to take me out of the movie myself. So, again, Dr. Loomis is the standout. Moving on to the man, Michael Myers. Michael Myers is the central figure of this movie. And Michael Myers is he's one of those characters that this entire movie is framed around him. Now, you might not understand why I'm trying to say that, but you will. What I mean is that Michael Myers is central to every other element in this movie. Michael Myers can't speak. Well, I mean, he can speak, but Michael Myers does not speak. And that, in itself, so we have to characterize this character somehow. And how do we do that? especially with what we're trying to convey with him. Where is he human? Is he not human? Is he supernatural? Like we have to convey these aspects about this character that we're trying to give off to people. So how do we do that? The main way that Michael Myers is characterized in this movie. He is characterized through everything that's going on. He's characterized through the dialogue of Loomis, through the backstory that we're given, but not in the way you might think. Through the pacing of the movie, through the suspense, from the ambiguity. Like, is he a threat? What's he doing? The subtle cues that you get with the head tilt. Like, everything you get with this, with this character is his way of getting characterized. Characters like this are like slashers. They're part of their characterization is their method, what they do. How did they go about the kill? How did they go about the chase? Like, what is their method? What do they do? Like, obviously, like you can point out differences between Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers purely through the action of how they take a life. Jason is blunt and over the top about it every single time. And Michael Myers is more straightforward. He's more precise. He's more to the point. You know? Like you can see how these kind of Jason's one of those characters that defies physics to the point where the only thing that he does, he just puts like so much force into what he's doing that his ridiculous move that would never work works. Like that's just kind of that's kind of the thing about but like Michael Myers to me is the greatest slasher of all time, and I think there's a reason for that. I think Michael Myers is the greatest slasher because mostly because of everything that's happening around him and the way he's characterized through all the events. Like the entire movie plays to him, whereas in Friday the 13th, like just not even just Friday the 13th, just like the backstories of all the other killers, the fact that you know so much, and like the way that they give off quirks and personality traits that I watched the Darkology of Michael Myers. Like killers with personality like Freddy and Chucky, they have certain quirks like one-liners, and that subconsciously provides a sense of comfort around them. This is subconscious stuff, like you know what to expect, you know what you're getting yourself into. With Myers, there's the best portrayals of him, at least, but there's none of that. You don't know what this guy's gonna do. You don't you literally have no idea what he's gonna do. And there's certain tics that he has. Like Michael Myers, the first thing, the pacing of the movie is one thing that helps Michael Myers. Michael Myers, there's a slow build-up in this movie, and it has a lot to do with the pacing through the character. The character is how the movie is pacing, if you will. Michael Myers is controlling the pace of this movie by stalking everybody. Okay? He stalks Laurie Strode. He wants to see what her day is like. He goes and stalks Tommy Doyle because he wants to see who she's babysitting. And she chooses her seemingly at random. No, the sequels change that a little bit. But he chooses her seemingly at random, and then he just stalks her and her friends throughout the day because he wants to see what her life is like. He's choosing her for a reason that we should, in the best interpretations, never know. And just the way that he does it, by kind of driving the car, stopping the car, placing it right outside of her classroom. These little quirks characterize Myers. Like Jason wouldn't do that. Freddy Krueger can't do that. It's like Chucky wouldn't do that. This is the kind of quirk that sets Myers apart. And this characterization leads to is this guy a threat or is he not a threat? What's he doing? It keeps you at that level of when there's not a clear threat present. You don't know what this guy's gonna do. You don't know what he's gonna strike. You don't understand this character, and I think that's what adds to him and makes him the best of all time. You just don't know what he's going to do next, and that has a lot to do with all the other elements, the cinematography, the framing of him in the shots. What's this guy gonna do? You don't know. And all the elements of that add to him. The score, not even the Halloween main theme, when the lights go off in the Myers house and that score kicks in. You don't know what his the mystique is added to by those elements, and they add to his character. It's one of those things where it's like, you might be hearing, that might be what he's hearing in his head, for all we know. There's nothing that denies that's what's happening. So, like, you could make an argument that it is. And so, all of the other elements in this movie, again, the score, pacing, go around to characterize Myers, and that's something that I don't see. If it's being done in the other slashers, it's not being done as well, clearly. Because there is no slasher movie that is objectively better than Halloween 1978 IMO. And so, now that Myers has stringed you along through this entire movie, and we know a little bit more about him and like what he does and his methods, we get to some of the sequences in this movie. And of course, he kills Annie about midway through the movie, and he does that by just a simple strangulation in a car, and then he slit her throat with the knife. And that's there to convey, like, that's not the main sequence of the movie. That's just there to convey, okay, there is a clear threat. Which, like, it's a slow build-up. Like, he's been stalking all day, and we could assume this guy's a threat, but now we know this guy is a threat. And he's slowly building up to what he's going to do to Laurie Strode, his selected victim, as we saw through the opening acts of this movie. And so, then we get, Linda and Bob come to the house, as we all know. And then we get the sequence that when I was in 8th grade, I showed this to my, we were on the way to soccer, and, with soccer game, and I showed this to my friend, and we were watching it, and like, I don't think he'd ever seen anything like this, and so, like, we were watching, all the way from, he wanted to watch the end, specifically, so we watched, like, the last 20-30 minutes of the movie, and I remember fucking when Bob opens the cupboard and Myers jumps out of him, he got fucking scared shitless, and like, that's just something that I'll never forget as long as I live, dude. That put a big smile on my face, because I mean, I knew it was coming, I'd seen the movie, like, already up to that point, and so, when he, like, that scene, he sticks Bob to the fucking wall. And, like, again, this adds to his character. We get to see a certain strength to this character we haven't yet seen. It's like, what the fuck is this guy? But he stabs him in the wall, and then he just does that head tilt. And, of course, we all know about the head tilt. We all know how famous it is. But it's like, why? Like, it's just it's one of those Myers quirks that he would do that nobody else would do. He has a character. And, like, I mean, he's not a traditional character by any stretch of the imagination, because of the fact that he doesn't speak, and the way that he's characterized, it's not traditional at all. But he is characterized, and I think that's something, the fact that he's characterized through the other elements of cinema, he's characterized through the elements of cinema more than anything else, and I think that's what makes him such an achievement, because of the way that, like, he's characterized through these obscure methods that you couldn't do in a novel, for instance. Like, there's so many, this character has to be done in cinema or he doesn't work. And I think that's what's really impressive. That's why the novelizations probably had to add stuff to make it, like, made it really dumb, dare I say. Like, there was an implied sexual reason why Michael was doing stuff. Like, hey, I don't, like, stay away from this character's mind. This character's not supposed to have a mind, because he's pure evil, and that's all you need to know. Pure evil, devil's eyes, that's it. With him. And so, he goes up, and then, like, again, like, this is a huge Myers thing. He puts the sheet on, and like, when he opens the door, the tension in that room. Like, again, I'll never forget when I'm 8 years old. The tension in the room where he opens the door, and he's got the ghost sheet on, like there's the amount of tension in the room, again, you'll hear me say this again when I talk about Joker, is unreal, because you know he's under there, and you know she doesn't know, and it really takes its time with that shot. It lingers on it, like the door slowly opens, And like this is an issue with the Rob Zombie one. Like Rob Zombie didn't let this scene play out. The original 1978 one lets the scene play out, and he slowly walks over, and the music starts up as she's dialing the phone, and it's just slow. It lets you linger on it because you know what's gonna happen. It likes to keep you in that ambiguity state for as long as it can. It draws out the sequences. And that's what's, and like the tragic thing about Linda's death especially is like you don't know, like, did she think Bob was killing her the whole time? Like, just something you'll never know that adds a little bit to her death that's not in the others. And then of course Laurie goes over, and then just the last 20-15 minutes of this movie, just fucking horror history is born when Laurie goes over to that fucking house, and she finds all of her dead friends, one after the other, and she goes in, like, the ambiguity of her walking through the house, all the way from, she finds Annie on the bed, the gravestone, she leans back, and then, you know, Bob and Linda are discovered, and then she immediately just fucking is attacked, and, like, this is my biggest issue with the movie from, like, a story perspective, is, like, this, like, Myers comes, he's sitting there, right? This is the only issue I have with this movie. He's sitting there on that fantastic shot where Laurie's sitting, leaning against the cover, and then his mask slowly comes into view. Such a good shot right there. And then Laurie's walking forward, and then Myers is behind her, right? And then he brings the knife down, and he, like, fucking misses. This is the thing that, this is, like, the only thing watching today that kind of makes me go, what the fuck? Like, this is the first time you see Myers make a mistake on camera. He literally, and he completely just misses her, and he hits her arm, and it gets cut, and she falls down the stairs. But it's like, you had her right there. You should have just stabbed her at a place you knew that he would hit her. And the way I let this movie forgive itself is I attribute it to Laurie being good instead of Myers being bad. Granted, this is me kind of writing for the guy, because this isn't indicated by the movie, so I understand that. But like I always say it's Laurie, like, realizing he's behind him. But then, I mean, again, there's nothing in the movie that would indicate that. But that's what I tell myself to write this flaw out of my mind, because it's like he's right behind her, and like the fact that he just doesn't hit her right there kind of makes me go, what? Sometimes, like, it depends on my mood that day, I guess, when I watch it. And I rewatch this movie every year on Halloween, and so he misses her. She falls down the stairs, and then of course he walks down the stairs with the donuts playing, like this, the song that's playing right now is playing, and then she locks him in, and then he breaks the door open. It's like, holy shit, this guy, like he breaks the door and then opens it, and she breaks the window, and it's like, I think that's interesting how he broke the door and she broke the window, like right in like a second of each other. So you can, like, argue that, like, that's showing the differences between Michael and a normal man, I suppose. That's something interesting I just thought of right now. Because, like, normal people, they could break the glass, but, like, Michael's busting through the door, so he's clearly above the level of a normal human being. And so then she breaks through the glass, and then she asks for help, but doesn't get the response, and then she runs across the street, and she gets to the door where it's Tommy, let me in, and Michael's just walking in the lighting, as Michael slowly walks across the street. Mwah! Perfect. And like that's the best part of the movie right there, when she is banging on the door and begging Tommy to let her in, and Michael's just slowly walking across the street. And then of course she gets in, Michael gets in, and then you got the sequence with in the living room with the sewing needle. Yeah, that's it. And she jabs it into, what is it, his neck, and then does she stab him with the knife? I forget. I haven't watched this since Halloween, so I thought she did, but maybe I'm crazy. But maybe she doesn't. No, I don't think she does. Whatever. So she hits him with the needle, and then the sequence ends. She goes up the stairs, gets the kids. You can't kill the boogeyman, which is another way that they characterize Myers. They had Tommy Doyle help with it, being the isn't it like the boogeyman? The boogeyman. He's the boogeyman. Forgot to mention that, but that's not that important. And then locks him in again. This is like Laurie's first instinct. The kids. That's something that adds to her. And adds to her nobility, like the potential sacrifice of making sure the kids are at least behind the door before she deals with Michael. That's something that adds to her and her nobility. One of her likable qualities. Take note, Disney. And so, then of course the sequence when they're in the closet, another more cinematic gold when she's in the closet. And Michael's just trying to be, he's doing weird Michael stuff again where he keeps turning the light on and off. But again, that's something only Myers would do that. That's clearly just Myers stuff right there. And she uses, I don't know if it's kind of arrogance, but she uses his own tick against him kind of, because he's screwing around basically. He's drawing it out and she jabs him in the eye, which probably is what inspired Decisive Strike. Thanks for that. And then she stabs him with the knife, and then he falls over, and then she gets the kids out. Michael gets up, she starts strangling her, and then bam, Loomis comes in, shoots him, falls down the balcony, and you're going, oh, because they finally got him, and then was that the boogeyman? As a matter of fact, it was, because you know about Loomis's character, what he's saying about Myers, and Loomis actually genuinely believes that Myers is not of this world, and so that's where all the boogeyman talk was setting up that line at the end. And then he gets up from the bullet shots and walks away, music playing, heavy breathing, cue out, cinematic masterpiece. Such a good movie. And I hate when people downplay its cinematic importance. For one, its importance to the horror genre, because I think Halloween is objectively an important cinema film, and as well as an important horror film. And I think Congress agrees with me because they preserved it. This is one of the movies that Congress has actually preserved. I don't know how that actually works, but but this movie has been preserved, deservingly so. This is a classic, and this is a very, very good movie. Everything down from performances to direction to framing, everything. It was done so well for this movie. And there is a reason that nobody has been better than it. And again, Michael Myers is a good killer, and he's the best killer of all time because of all of these elements. It's not the fact that he's inherently better than everybody else. It's because of the direction. It's because of the score. It's because of the framing. It's because of everything that helps him become a good character. It's the backstory that he gets, which is a false backstory. I mean, it's not false being that, it didn't happen. It's false as in, because the thing about Freddy's backstory and Jason's backstory is you understand what they're doing. They're obviously motivated by revenge. Leatherface, his family trained, you get Esther from Orphan, another movie I'm probably going to be reviewing in the future. Her father was abusive towards her. That's implied. I think. I don't remember, but you get the sense that she wants to be a mother. There's a lot of implied backstory with her. We'll get to her, but you get a lot of sense of motivation and character for these characters. With Myers, his backstory is he's 6 years old and he decides, hey, I'm gonna kill my sister one day. Isn't that cool? That's you're searching for relatability in a backstory for this character, and you don't get any. You don't get any relatability. You don't get any motivation. You don't get anything with him. And so, all of these elements combined with the score, the low budget, again, it helps this movie. I think low budgets are an underrated thing you can do. You don't need big budgets. Big budgets can be a hindrance because you have unlimited resources. Limited resources is a fuel for creativity. And I think this is one of the movies that really showcases that. Limited resources is because you have limited resources. That's why you buy a William Shatner mask and you paint it white, and then that's your iconic mask. No joke. which, I mean, y'all know that by now, but it's like, that was done because of limited resources. If you have limited resources, it inspires the creativity in people to go off. That's why you don't see creativity from big budget productions. You don't see the best creativity from big budget productions. Let's phrase it that way. And so like that's just something, like when you don't get a lot of money, you don't have a lot of resources, you have to create your own resources. And you know, it shows, man. And with even for 1978, this movie's box office numbers, it really shows how like incredible it actually was for the time. And it even holds up today. Myers is still relevant. He's like, that's something that he can say, he's still relevant. And it holds up incredibly well. The character holds up incredibly well, as does just this movie in general. Holds up extremely well. And that's why we are all super fucking excited for Halloween Kills next year. And we were all super fucking excited for Halloween 2018. This character has a certain aura about him, a certain class. And I think that has a lot to do with just the fact that it started the huge slasher trend. And then I think one last thing to say, kind of, is sometimes this movie gets a lot of shit for having the conventional slasher trends in it. But you gotta remember, this is why you have to view it in the framework of its time. When Annie, well, not Annie, when Linda and her boyfriend are having sex, like, that trope wasn't a thing yet. This movie started the slasher genre. So all the tropes of modern slashers weren't there yet. And in the context of the movie, it makes more sense than just you have a sex scene because it's a slasher movie. It's kind of like a setup thing, I guess. Like, it's more implied in the narrative that stuff is going to be happening, because, like, you know, they're talking about it throughout the day. It's not just something that happens because it's a box we have to check off, like in the Friday the 13th movies, for instance. It's just it's a slasher trope. You have to check the box if you want to be a slasher movie. Like, it's like that's it's all bullshit. But you know, so like, you can't fault Halloween for having those elements in it, because the genre wasn't a thing yet, and this movie invented the genre. Every movie that's parodying Halloween and copying it, like, you can't fault Halloween for having the same things in it, because it's the one that it's daddy, if you will. It's the one that created all of this stuff. So I don't think that works as a criticism against Halloween. So I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I gotta say. I tried to find something new to say about this movie, but there's so much that's already been said about it at this point, and we all know that it's kind of a classic. And, you know, I apologize if this was a little rough around the edges. This is my first movie review ever, so I'm hoping I will get better at this as I keep going. But that's kind of what I had to say about this, and I think that's pretty much all of my thoughts on this movie. And so I'm just going to let the rest of this match play out, and that'll be it from me, gents.